Hello, Dwayne Brummett here with Ali Albarigo, SchoolOwnerTalk.com. Good morning, Ali. Great to be with you, sir.
Yeah, great to be with you as well, man. How's it going over there in the Illinois area, Chicago? All I hear about on news is how violent and dangerous and people getting shot and robberies. Or how is that by you?
It's called Chirac. You didn't know that?
I heard that. That's great.
Yeah, I'm going to get a shirt. I'm going to make a shirt, and I survived Chirac. It's crazy.
Yeah. So now, is that hitting your area, like violence and all that? Is everyone concerned? And
I'm about 50 miles south of Chicago, so no, it's not.
Okay.
I mean, the problem though is I'm right on the interstate. I'm right. Our town is right off the interstate that hits, Chicago, or, obviously if you want to go to Memphis, you don't remember that, do you?
I do remember that very well.
So if you want to go to Memphis, and so there's easy access to do something. And we've had this before, I don't want to say quite often, but quite a few times where things have happened, and then the person gets on the interstate and goes north, or usually goes north,
Right.
So they've held up cell phone stores for some reason, get it a lot, where they hold up the cell phone store and then they get on the interstate and try to get away.
Wow. Crazy, right? It's amazing. Like I know, even in my area, when people hear where I'm from, they think immediately that I'm from, Manhattan, New York City. But New York is a massive place. Like, from the tip of Albany to the Southamptons is so large. So people automatically assume. Like the other day, someone on Facebook said, don't mention the name of your state, but say something that people would know what state you're from. And I said, I think they said one word, and I wrote attitude. And then people they knew right away it was New Yorkers, right? Because we all have that one type of attitude. So anyway, so it's great to see you here. I have my Batman shirt on. You have your bodybuilding shirt on there. So you're awesome. So today is interesting, right? We're talking about scaling your business and building the business of your dreams, right? And there are many different perspectives. What are your thoughts on that? Like, let's jump right in and help our listeners understand that there's a difference.
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to do is maybe kind of define what we're talking about with regards to scale your business. And, when I first got into the industry, I remember hearing John Graydon, talk about, begin with the end in mind type thing. So,
Right.
and I didn't understand it. I heard, Ernie Reyes Sr. talking about, goals and chunking things down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stephen Oliver talking about the end game,
Mm-hmm.
You finally retire, type thing. And in the beginning, I really did not understand what the heck they were talking about. And so when I learned about scalability, that was foreign to me because I really didn't have the end game in mind on, what I wanted my school to be like. And so I think first off, we need to define what scalability is. And I think that everybody's definition can be a little bit different. But to me, scalability is picking and choosing and doing, things in my school or systems or whatever it is that are going to be for the majority of the time, for the majority of the people, stay consistent the longest to, further my business, and obviously give me less work, because I can't tell you how many times I've changed the curriculum, changed the lesson plans. You learn this and then you change that. You learn this and you change that.
Yeah.
I think that's good, but I think some of the basic principles in business never change. And so creating some scalability in your business based upon that is going to be very important. So that probably sounds really vague, maybe confusing. I actually feel a little confused saying it, but I think scalability is something that, you as a business owner first need to, again, go back to what those three individuals that I talked about. You have to know what you want for your school. the life that you want to live, because that's attached to it as well. So it's not just your business that you have to be concerned about, but it's also, your personal life that you need to be concerned about. And for a long time, for me, the business ran my personal life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was able to actually learn about scalability and systems and those type of things that now they're pretty much on the same level, if not, my life now runs more of my business, if that makes sense.
It totally does. And what you just said too, it really isn't confusing, although I think the clarity of everything you just said really is based off of a few little things. And that's number one, making a decision on what type of business you want to run or what lifestyle you want to have. And by the way, whatever you decide, you could always change along the way. I mean, I've had so many different mindsets over 30 years. I mean, if I didn't, just think of how stagnant life would be if I didn't change and grow and learn from my mistakes. And maybe because back when I first started, I was this hardcore guy. If I was the person I was 30 years ago, I'd never have another student now. Or maybe I'd have way more students than I do now. You just don't know. But I mean, I've shifted my mindset to appeal to how I was thinking. Like, I mean, I used to have no fear of letting people dive over chairs and dive over wave masters and do all these crazy things. Now I kind of cringe in fear, hoping that they don't get hurt, praying that they don't get injured for multiple reasons. One, I don't want them to get hurt or injured, but two, I'm afraid for the business and lawsuits and quitting and, the perception. So there's a lot of things that we go through nowadays that we never did back then. Right, too. But I think the main thing is deciding on what type of business you want to run, right? And, what are you looking for? What's your end game? What's your result?
Well, and I think that comes down to what is your definition of success? Because
right.
I think that so many times we're looking at the other schools in our area or the other school owners that we know, and we start thinking, well, I'm not as successful as that person,
right?
And so it's kind of goes back to when you would go to the conventions, right?
Right.
What's the number one question that school owners would ask you?
Very simple. How can I be more like Ali Alberigo? No, just kidding. No, how can I get more students?
No. They wanted to know how successful you were.
Yeah,
right?
well, they would judge me based on, like, that's what they would say to me when I'd have my booth. They'd say, how do I get more students? How could I teach them to do that? And then I'd say, oh, I could do that. And they go, well, how many students do you have?
That's the question.
Yeah. And then I'd go, well, what does that matter really? Like how many students I have? Don't you want to, know how much money you're going to make? How many students are happy? There's so many factors that go into that question.
And that's really the wrong question to ask. How many students do you have? It really should be, hey, Ali, how many investment properties do you own?
Right.
What is your net profit? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, those are the questions that we should be asking school owners that are, successful. I'm holding on my quote fingers, more successful than us. And, there are, I mean, there's school owners that are more successful than me. So I'm not doing the quote fingers to downplay that. But what I'm saying is we're asking the wrong question. But we first need to define for ourselves what is success for us. And that kind of even goes back to a few podcasts ago when we talked about, should we buy a building or rent,
right.
that type of thing, so it all depends on your comfort level and those things. So first I would say, define what success is for you. Success for me in the beginning was getting 300 students.
Right.
Now success for me is I want, 200 students, but I want premium, net profit from every single one of them. I mean, that's where my, mind shift has happened with regards to my business and success. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I'm looking down at my phone because one of our friends, one of our sponsors said to me on text that he's trying to comment on our feed, but it's saying something is wrong with the commenting. I don't know if he still can. Lance, if you're out there, text me back and tell me whether you could see us and hear us, but you just can't comment. But interesting. I was able to comment, but he said he wasn't able to, or maybe refresh and so on. But Dwayne, going back to our topic, So 30 years ago, I started my school for very different reasons, right? And then, now 20 years ago, I had other reasons. So honestly, really what we have to decide is where we want to be, and really look at, there's a great book. I think it was called and a great book. It wasn't the easiest, most interesting read, but it was a lot of content that was amazing. But anyway, long story short, it was called The Millionaire Next Door.
Oh, very good book.
Yeah, it talked about the guy who is a postman. He delivers mail. And when he passed away, he left 25 million to his family. And there was a guy, I forget in the book, and I might be it's a long time, that when he died, he had like a corn silo filled with cash, worth like $20 million. And the guy was like a, small town, metal shop guy, or whatever the case may be. So if the bottom line is to make money, and grow your business through, financially, and have it to the point where you say, hey, I'm billing 25 grand a month, that's a good living as long as your profitability. My old saying, right? There's 3 tiers to martial arts: is high quality, high profit, and low stress, right? And the bigger your school, the more students you have, the more parents you deal with, the more complaints you'll have, the more stress you have. So if you have less students, you get to control them a little bit, the environment better, because there's less people to deal with, and right. You might be able to charge a premium dollar for a smaller group and make almost equally, if not more, as much or more, right? So what is the model? The real question is your end game. What is it that you want? Are you in it to make a good living and feed your family and have a lot of money so that you could buy fancy things and vacations and, that kind of stuff? Or are you taking your profits and putting it into, like you said, Dwayne, a rental property or investments and so on? So that's the real question.
Yeah, and and I'm not negating that, or I don't think we're ignoring the fact that we all got into teaching martial arts as a way of giving back or helping individuals learn how to defend themselves, have better character, be upstanding citizens, all those things. So I don't want everybody to think it's just all about the money, because that's not it. But if we're not making a profit, not having a decent living, it's really hard to step out on that floor and provide those services to our clients. Yeah. So I just want to say that really quickly. But yeah, and I know in the beginning, like I said, I wanted 300 students. I was working Monday through Saturday. I remember my wedding day obviously was on a Saturday. I shouldn't say obviously, because some people do it on different days, but mine was on a Saturday. And I went and taught classes that morning, all the way up till 2 o'clock, got done at 2 o'clock, went home, showered and changed and put my suit on, and then went and got married.
Yeah.
Was that a bad thing? No, but you know what I'm saying? I was married to the business.
Yeah. Well, you had to leave your first wife to go to your new future wife.
Yes.
Right. Which was your first wife, which people have said this to me. And by the way, the divorce rate is very high for martial arts school owners, for black belts that teach. And the reason being is because, and by the way, that goes the same for all self-employed business owners, men or women, where the spouses sometimes feel that the business is more important than them and the family. And by the way, people will say things like, well, I got to work to be able to afford college and afford to pay these nice bills so that you can have nice things. When in reality, I can tell you this, your daughter's never going to complain, or a boyfriend or husband or wife or kids are going to complain because you spent more time with them. They're going to complain when they don't see you or can't see you, and so on and so forth. So it really all depends. So I guess really the first thing we would say would be that they have to think about why they're in the game. Do they love teaching just for teaching? And what would they like to be the end result? To make a good living? Or do they want to teach thousands of students at a lower rate so that they could be known as the greatest teacher and impact more people and make less money? It really is, that's the first choice, is to try to see what you want to be when you grow up. Who are you going to be? Yep. If that makes sense.
Agreed. And I went through, that whole changing process. I know this. I no longer have Saturday morning classes. I no longer have Friday classes. I teach Monday through Thursday. My Friday nights are for staff meetings, and also for private lessons, and that's it. And now, does that mean that we don't have events? Yeah, we do have events from time to time. Does that mean we don't have birthday parties? Yeah, we have birthday. Now, look, to be quite honest with you, if I had to go back and do birthday parties, I wouldn't do them. I just wouldn't do them. But we also didn't have the leverage of back in the day. We didn't have the leverage really of Google and Facebook like we do now to help bring in leads. So we had to do a lot of groundwork in order to bring in a lot of leads, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, so here's just a quick thing for me. In the beginning, I started off in a small, tiny school because I wanted to have training partners that I could fight with and practice on. Selfish mentality, but it was more about the martial arts and me having a place to go when I couldn't go to my school and train with my teacher. Then I found that I loved teaching so much that I wanted to run this like a full-time business, and I expanded and rented a building and eventually taught full-time, selling my very, very lucrative, successful landscape construction company. And then I was like, wow, this is really cool. People started asking me from around the country if they could be a part of my school, my system. So I started opening up branch schools, and then I started to follow the models, like the scaling models of all the big successful coaches. You want to have another school, open another location, train your staff. And I had this big team. I mean, at one school, I think I had 11 schools, and I say worldwide because one was in Puerto Rico, one was in Bermuda. And I was literally a slave to the running of the employees and the systems and the training and the staff. And I was told like that's what would happen. You'd shift from being a teacher to shift to teaching the teachers, but really babysitting the teachers, babysitting the staff, because now I was really nothing more than a manager, a high-level owner and manager. And I kind of lost the love for the school and the students and the martial arts. So that was a big dilemma for me. Mm-hmm. So that was my perception. So that's where I was at that time. What about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've gone through, I would say, some different changes, where, hiring my first head instructor.
Right.
And then being able to step off the floor and manage. And at one point when I was, building the business, after doing that probably was a very good thing that I had somebody else out on the floor that was, looking out for the best interest of the students, was because, I was so much looking at the financials that I don't want to say that I was looking at, seeing literal, bills, running around with karate uniforms on and a belt. Yeah. But I mean, I kind of was.
Right.
And, so I think that was a good thing for me to go through, and it was probably beneficial that I wasn't teaching, like I was before at that point. But this happened maybe 2.5, 3 years into, maybe 3.5 years into, opening up TriStar Martial Arts Academy. Is there was a gentleman, you remember PPP payment solution? Yeah. Whatever it was called.
Joe Gallia.
Yeah. He had introduced me to a guy. I don't know if you remember this guy, but by the name of Mike Pace.
Yeah.
Okay. So I contacted Mike because I was talking to Joe Gallia about, just needing time off. And he said, oh, well, you should talk to Mike Pace. He takes, a bunch of time off. And so I talked to him about closing, kind of like what I do, throughout the year. And he coached me on, why I should do it, and then how to approach parents with it, when I first was going to start to do it. And it's been one of the best things that I've ever done, is being closed almost 7 weeks out of the year. I'm actually looking for 1 more week. So it's 2 months, it's 2 months out of the year that we're closed. I mean, that is massive. And what even it does for my staff, especially my head instructor, you know how it is when you get done with one vacation, or excuse me, when you're getting ready to go on vacation, you're excited, right? You're motivated. You're like, yep, I got to get this done because this vacation's happening. Da, da, da. And then once the vacation's done, you're like, oh, okay, now I'm back to the same But for us, it's, it's like from one closing to the next. We look at, all right, we've only got this much time for this, until we're closed again, and we got to get this much done. And it just, I think it brings another level of excitement into our teaching. I know it sounds goofy to say that we're happy that we're going to be closed, but I'm happy that we're going to be closed.
Yeah, here's the thing. You and I could easily just say we're not coming in, and our team would run the school, right? It's that simple. But there is that underlying stress, like what happens if while we're not there, or what could have happened. But when you're closed, you're closed. There's none of that. Like, it's almost a relief on 4th of July weekend to be totally shut down. Although I'm still stressed a little bit because people will text me on this 4th of July was Saturday, Sunday, Monday we were off. And they were like texting me on Saturday, are we open? I must have sent out 20 text messages, 20 push notifications, calendar, Facebook, a website, and they still will text me on my personal cell. Are we open? We're here. I'm like, did you not? I want to be nasty and be a little sarcastic. Like, did you not read one of my 27 ways of communicating? And in fact, like right above your text message, there's a message to you in the thread that you just decided not to read. Like, but then again, that's what we deal with as owners. So to be able to not come in and have nothing going on is a big relief for you and I, and even our team, because now they're home with their family. They're not worried and they're just relaxing.
Well, okay. So, I think all of us want to build a team. So we're talking about scalability. So I'm kind of changing gears here on you, but they just came to mind is, let's back it up to your curriculum.
Right.
And, how you want that to be formed so that, I'm certain there's some sort of upgrade program.
Right.
From the upgrade program, maybe then there's a cross upgrade where you're going to get them on some sort of, teaching team or whatever.
Right.
So that you can develop instructors, so that you got individuals that are going to be out on that floor. I mean, that's the duplication that I'm kind of talking about to simplify yourself, where, it needs to be scalable. Yeah, I don't know where I know where I'm going with that, but you develop your curriculum in such a way that you're teaching while you're teaching. That's what I've always referred it to.
Right.
So I always teach while I teach, even if I've got a storm team member that's, on the floor with me, I'll tell them, hey, why do you think I did it this way? Or I'll just tell them, did you see what I did? Why do you think I did it this way? Or this is why I did it this way, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But you got to have those things in place in order to make things scalable in your business, because you can't be everything to everybody all the time. And you need staff, whether they're paid or not paid, you need staff members that are going to be out there doing that for you as well.
Well, let's clarify one thing, and then that would be the first thing would be you can scale without expanding into multiple schools.
Yes.
Right. So that's one thing that I would say is an absolute no-brainer, no question that must be done, is being able to scale with and not thinking of scaling in the sense that you have, multiple locations. And by the way, there are some school owners that are absolutely killing it. Like, Chung Park, and, Solomon Brenner, 22 locations, 12 locations, et cetera, et cetera. You have to have a certain mindset for that, right? You need to know that you're ready to manage and run multiple places as an owner, right? Some people, they want it, but they're not that type of personality. So you might have to hire someone, right? But the other thing is scaling, like you just said. So like that's what let's get into that a little bit deeper. And I'm drawing on a piece of paper, old school, making a little column, down the page thing, where, we could talk about, scaling, and then we could talk about, profitability, etc. So I'm just going to jot notes as we talk.
Okay.
I got to make sure I'm profitability, spell it right so I don't look like a illiterate person.
It's going to look backwards when you put it on the screen anyways, probably.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's, unless I held it like this. No, that wouldn't work. So tell me, when Dwayne, when you took that step and you hired Mr. Bean and Mr. Kent and you had a program manager and so on, what were the things first that you wanted them to do to replace or emulate, copy yourself, what you did, like kind of to take you out of that part? Like, what were some of the things that you wanted to fix?
Well, even before I hired a head instructor, which his name is Mr. Bean, I hired a program director. And so for me, that was the first step. I was the teacher. I needed somebody to, sign people up and be the line of communication. And that was back when, you weren't doing texting and stuff. You were doing telephone calls and emails and, snail mail.
Right.
And so, and for me, I hated that work anyways. I absolutely hate it. Without Spark, I still wouldn't do it.
Right.
Right. And so I needed somebody that actually loved doing those things. That would just mentally, that alleviated the pressure from me. But obviously I needed them to make the business function, sign people up. And if they didn't show up, call them. I mean, all those things. Right.
Right.
And then I got to a position where I was like, man, I like being out on the floor, but I want the opportunity to be able to not be here if I don't want to be here, or not be on the floor and talk to the parent, or whatever.
Right.
And so that's when I decided to hire my first, full-time instructor. And I didn't know at the time that I think I just kind of fell into this because like I said, I've always been the type of teacher that would teach while you're teaching. And so I was teaching while I was teaching, and I made a pretty decent, head instructor just by doing that and not having a comprehensive system. Now I have a comprehensive system since I've gone back and actually looked at those things, and I go, okay, this is the first thing that I want to teach, and this is the second thing I want to teach my teachers how to teach, that type of stuff. But before that, I didn't have a comprehensive system that would do that. I don't want to say automatically, but that would do that on a regular basis. And so, now I've gone back and done that.
So you basically, you kind of took the things that you didn't like that were necessary, and you found someone that could do those things for you and do them well. Right. So obviously some people are not good on the phone. So you got to find someone who's good on the phone. You can't just hire someone and then put them on the phone, and rather than you just to replace you, because if they're not doing a good job, you could be wasting money in marketing and advertising and not getting sign up. So we have to first find the qualified person to replace us in that specific task. And then at the same time, train them well so they could do the job even better than you, so that their performance outweighs or outperforms what you were able to do. So you're growing your school, et cetera, et cetera. Would you say that?
Yeah, they need to make you money. I mean, they have to. They got to pay for their position and more.
Right. So now, what would be some of the tasks that you would say, like a school owner who's looking to scale, who's maybe a one-man operation, who's looking to hire someone? What would you say would be some of the tasks that people should be doing or someone they should be hiring to do so that they could take themselves out of the scenario?
Well, first and foremost, if they don't have a software company that is doing, I would say, 80 to 90% of the heavy lifting, then they need to go find a software company that will do that. And I've gone through plenty of software companies.
Right.
When before martial arts software was, a thing, I, did other softwares. But then when a martial arts software like Champion's Way at the time came out with their software, I hopped on board because it was, light years ahead of any other martial arts software at the time. But then it didn't do the internet marketing things that I needed.
Right.
So I switched from that to Infusionsoft, but Infusionsoft was so hard to learn.
Right.
They've since done a lot better job of making that a lot easier to learn. But that I switched to something that was called Entreport. And then from Entreport, you talked me into Spark.
Right.
Best. I owe you money. I mean, I owe you a thanks. I had not switched to that, but especially during the pandemic.
You got me into Entreport because you were teaching me how to do all of these automations where you'd send out an email. If they clicked on this, they would get put into this file, and then we could send more info to nurture them through the lead process. And we paid a lot of money. I think it was like $200 or $300. It was like $297 or even more a month just for that component, right?
Well, yeah, it was $297 a month, but then I had 3 users on it, and so I was paying close to like $400 a month.
Yeah, and then I said, hey, Dwayne, you know that I have a software that literally will do that for you, and it's easier to do, and it's included in the price for free. And that's when you and I are like, wow, this is great, and we started. So obviously Spark is one of our sponsors.
Well,
yeah, and we love their software.
Yeah, and so that would be the first thing is if you're an individual school owner, you need a software company that's going to be comprehensive. And what I mean by comprehensive is going to help you run your school like a martial arts school, but also an internet business as well, because you know, it has to do that. So that'd be the first and foremost, and then utilize every single thing that's found in that software that is going to help you move your business forward.
And there's so much, it's amazing. But without selling Spark, which I recommend to everyone, though, you're saying, so like if you had a choice, you would, instead of maybe 20 years ago, we'd say hire a person to do this, all these things. But now we could hire a person to manage Spark and help us with all the things like automations, email marketing, follow up and follow through, student communication, billing. All of this stuff is all through this one central software. So with one program manager and this software, we're doing the job of 3 or 4 people that we were paying in the past, right?
Well, let's put it in perspective. I've got 276 students. And my program director is part-time. She does 20 hours a week.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't even need a full-time program director because of the software. And, you know, if I wanted to be attached to the studio, I wouldn't even need her.
Right.
Like if I wanted to be there every single night, then I wouldn't even need her.
Right.
But I don't want to be there every single night.
Right.
So, you know, does that kind of make sense? So I wanted to put it in perspective. So
okay.
I think a really, really good software. And if you're an individual school owner, like meaning that, you know, you're the one man or one woman show, one person show, let's be politically correct, one person show. You may not even need to hire a program director because of that software right now.
Right.
But eventually you're going to hit a tipping point.
Yeah.
Where you might need somebody for 10 hours a day, or 10 hours a week, you know, that type of thing.
Right.
So that would be the next thing that you need to do in order to bring your business to the next level. Would it be better for you to hire somebody to do the office, or would it be better for you to hire somebody to be on the floor? Right.
Now, when I used to open up dojos and I put people in place, my primary thing was to find an owner operator or a operator that would run the school for me, that was an instructor that could do all that stuff on the floor. And then I'd hire a program manager to do all the paperwork, business stuff, communication with me. But I have to say one thing, though, that the most important component is an instructor. And I have to add in and quote before instructor the word great, right? A great instructor, because a school is made, the success of a school is based off of the teaching in the room. You could communicate, you could email, you could text message and all that great stuff. You could have branding and all these cool shirts and whatever you do. If your instruction on the floor is subpar, and people don't feel like they're learning and benefiting and connecting with the teacher, then the school will fail. And I've seen this, like I've seen some talented martial artists, like fighters, MMA champions, world-renowned instructors that were terrible at teaching. Like they were great martial artists, not instructors, world-renowned martial artists that were terrible teachers, and they failed running a school, right? But they blamed it on, it's commercialism, it's the McDojo, it's the whole business side. I don't want to do that. And then they ended up failing because their personality just was not leadership quality, right? So that, I think, is the key. Like, you have Mr. Bean, I have my guy Richie Ryan, and they're dynamic. And we're always dealing with issues, and we're always recorrecting them as head instructors and helping them grow. But I'm like molding my guy eventually so that if I died tomorrow, he'd be able to run that school successfully. If I retired tomorrow, which would be a much better option, he'd be able to run that school, and I could still draw money from it to survive and go live down in some island paradise or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think that's the first thing that somebody would need to do is get a software, and then make the decision on, help in the office or help on the floor for the next level. If you still want to be on the floor teaching, then I would say your next level is to get help in the office.
Right.
So that while you're out there teaching, customers are being served, especially during your prime times. So like I used to, before COVID, I used to have somebody come in and they would be there, 15 minutes before or half an hour before classes would start. And I'm talking about a program director, half an hour before classes would start, and they would be there, a half an hour classes were done. So they were there 4 to 5 hours a night.
Right.
Not anymore. I have them come in a half an hour before classes start. And then in the evening, let's say on Monday and Wednesdays, they're done by 7 because I don't need them there for the last 2 classes. And on Tuesday, Thursday, they're done by 7:30. I don't need them there for those last 2 classes either. I just don't, just because they're higher level classes, there's less customer service that has to be done with those individuals. You know what I mean? Most of those people use the app to ask questions and buy things on the app,
Mm-hmm. By the way, which is another unbelievable, incredible thing that we have when it comes to Spark is that, I've sold so much money on summer camp just alone off the app. They sign up for the Thursday camp, bing, they hit it, it's done. Like, I don't have to write a receipt. I don't have to sit with them. I don't have to talk to them. It's just like quick and easy. So, okay, so real quick, a recap. So you said, number one, a program manager. It doesn't have to be full-time, but if they, the other is a very good instructor, right? The second one is to have a great instructor. And then the third one, what would you say would be? What would be one other area that you would think that if people want to scale, and it doesn't have to be an employee, it could be what would be a function that people would be doing? I think I have an idea of one, but what would your thoughts be?
Well, I guess it comes back to, it really comes back to what it is that you want out of your school, what the end game is out of your school. But I would say either, developing other instructors, having some sort of actual path, system that helps you develop the instructors on a consistent basis. And then, I agree. Obviously you got to have, and I think somebody put this in the comments, but, you got to have some sort of marketing system that is just keeps coming, allowing you to have new students on a regular basis.
You want to hear something weird? As David Nemiroff wrote, a marketer, I sent you a message too, and I said we do have to have marketers as well. So like a Facebook marketer, right? Or somebody who's going to help you. Like I just, here's a weird thing that totally different, but I had a guy call me and inquiring about a website. He does like welding on boats and custom welding and all these metal fabrications, and he wants a website. And he said, yeah, I'm just debating on whether I should build it myself and learn how to do website development. And I'm like, why would you do that though? Like, and a lot of school owners think this way. They think penny rich, dollar poor. I forget the saying, right? What is the saying? Penny rich.
I don't know, but I know where you're going with that.
Yeah, well, they think they're going to save money by doing it themselves. And they're thinking really shortchanging themselves, because if you have a really great marketing guy and you could learn it. You could take a course. You could develop a course. Yeah, you could do all that. But I'd rather pay somebody, like we pay Gus from Lead Hunter Media to do all of our Facebook marketing. He's the expert. Let him worry about education and training himself on to be better and how to stay up with the trends and the algorithms. I don't want to do that, dude. I'm at the point now where I'd love to just binge watch TV shows and enjoy life, and have a good time.
Or the Apple updates that, screw things up.
Oh, you know how many times I, as a web developer, my partner has to change the Facebook marketing behind the scenes, blah, 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 so that Facebook changed their reasons. And now we have to change the websites to coincide with that. So Gus will send it to my partner. My partner's like, I got another week of work to fix all of, just because Facebook decided to change something. Right. So I think that it's so important that, you know, yeah, someone just wrote, oh, since Soke Dai, David Nemiroff wrote, would you learn how to do surgery yourself or just go to someone who actually knows what they're doing? Right, exactly. Like, why would you try to, and what, I don't know, maybe some people, they're control freaks, like they want to control every aspect of their business. That's understandable. But and by the way, that's how I was back in the day. And now I'm more like you, Dwayne, where we find the right people to do what we want and have them help us become more successful versus us trying to figure out the wheel and redevelop the wheel, right? Do you have something up there?
Yeah, let's see. What was I going to say? Delegate everything except your genius.
Right. Or, and if you could try to delegate your genius too, you'd have more people around you that are better.
Let's see it right up there. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it. I love those things. Are they mixed tiles?
Yeah, they're the pixel or whatever it's called. I don't know. Yeah.
Mixed tile thing. Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah. By the way, for all school owners, what Dwayne just showed you, there's a company called Mixtile, MIXTILE.com, and you could go and make those motivational pictures, photos of your school, and they stick right to the wall, and they're very cheap. You get like 10 of them for like $90 and decorate your school and all this other stuff for very inexpensive. So Dwayne, so then, yeah, so we would find a marketer, we would find a expert in web development, and we would have them help us so that we have a team of experts.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, make sure that your onboarding process for, you know, the trial students is scalable. Yes. As well, because what you don't want is, you know, what works for 2 new people showing up for class and 10 new people showing up for class might be 2 different things.
Right.
So what you want to do is you want the onboarding process to be scalable for 100. If 100 people showed up, like the scalability of that needs to be there as well. And that's where, like, I don't know about you, but back in the day, I used to follow this process where they would sign up to do a trial, and it was a consultation and then 2 introductory lessons. And so the parent and the student would come in for the consultation. The consultation basically would be, you know, a sales presentation type thing, find out what their pains are, and then, you know, massage the pains, and then tell them how we're going to solve it. Then they'd come back and do their first intro. The kid would have homework and then come back and earn their belt in their second intro. And then that's when I would, you know, enroll them. And to be quite honest with you, my best year, actually, this was a 2-year period, you know, combined. I mean, I was closing at a 76% rate. So, you know, every individual, you know, 70 out of 100, 76 people sat in front of me, signed up.
Wow. Amazing.
You know? But that was so time consuming. I had to be there. I had to do everything. That was me doing it all.
Yeah. And by the way, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that just wasn't scalable.
Right. And I was going to say, and I know you're probably going to say this too, is that, by the way, like we have automations now that do that for us, right? So through our software. And by the way, I just, right now, as we're doing this podcast, I had someone come through on my email that did the Facebook marketing, went and filled out the form, and went and signed up for their first class. All of that would have been, they called me. If they left a message, I'd call them back. I'd set up the trial. I'd have to do it all, and then I'd verify ahead of time. All of this process is being done totally automatically for me. And I am amazed at how many of those people that do this on their own, it's literally have washed my hands of all these things that I used to have to do. And it's very personal. It's not like a computer message. It's handwritten by me. So it appears to be coming right from me. Hey, thanks for signing up right now, Dwayne. That was awesome. Can't wait to meet you. Just fill out this form and make your first class. You know, and they're honestly believing, and I'm not saying this to be disingenuous, but they're believing that they're doing this with a live person and getting the response. So they're going through the whole entire process. They are talking to me, but It's just that I canned it ahead of time.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, so software is a key. That's number one that helps us. So, well, we're really almost like we're kind of almost out of time. We have like 15 minutes left. So what are your thoughts on, so you've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for a long time. What is one or two things that you think that you changed in your mindset of what, after all these years of how you think differently about what you want to achieve in life? You know what I mean? Like what changed? Like I could tell you first if you want me to go. I mean, I have less desire now to, to have, more things. I've become very comfortable with just being able to have money in the bank and know that my future is set, that if I retire, I don't need to work. I put enough money away that I could do that whenever I choose. I'm happy to have the things I have. Like, I don't need another bigger screen TV. I don't need the iPhone 17 that will walk up to me when I talk. Although I do have a car that I'm amazed. I don't know if you saw my video I posted where I'm able to summon my car. So we got out of a restaurant the other day, and with my Tesla, I push the button and the car backs out and drives through the entire parking lot and stops in front of me. So I'm able, with no driver, and people were videotaping. They're like, unbelievable. I can't believe it. Like, and then we just get in the car and we drive away. So like little toys like that make you happy. But I don't need those as much as I used to, and I'm just genuinely more happier now than ever. I don't know if it was a reminder because of the whole COVID thing to start to focus on things that were more important, to not let people who stress me out. I had a big debate on Facebook of whether I would just block someone now. If they're going to be on my post and they're going to try to get me angry, or you're trying to go against what I'm saying, I say, let's be positive. They say, why be positive? This world sucks. I'm like, delete, block, you're out. Like, I don't know. So like, I think that's hard. That's not a young man's mentality, is it? Right? Like, as you get older, you start to realize that life is a lot shorter. You're on the shorter cycle. I'm 56. I'm on the shorter cycle of my life now. And if I live to 85, I'm happy. 90 would be great. But so I don't have a lot of time left. I only have 40 more Christmases maybe, or 30 more Christmases, 30 more summers, 30 more birthdays, so we got to learn to be a little bit happier, and not let the little things bother us. Like, what was that book a long time ago? Don't sweat the little things. Oh, don't sweat the small stuff. Right. So what do you,
I've not read that.
You've never read that?
No.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Yeah, it was a very big, multi-million-dollar selling book. Million books. Yeah, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Check it out. It's short, little, tiny, quick read.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But, so what do you think? What have you learned over the years? Like now, like, you're set. You got your beautiful little office. I see you sometimes just sitting in your yard, enjoying your pool and your yard. And, maybe it's not a 40-acre mansion in the Hamptons, but it's beautiful. And you love it. Like, why are we different now? What do you think changed in you, and how did you grow, and so on?
Yeah. First off, I don't know that I'll ever not work.
Right.
So I'll always have to do something, whether it's, in the martial arts industry or not. I mean, I definitely feel like I need to wake up every morning and have a purpose. And yeah, I know you can retire and you can, donate time, and I'm not opposed to that either. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But I just know for me, my mom always said about me that, you can take the boy out of the business, but you just can't take the business out of the boy.
Right.
And so for some reason, I just have that, I don't want to say, I guess, entrepreneurial spirit. And I don't know that I always had it, but once I got into this, I have. Mm-hmm. So I think I'll always be doing something.
Right.
I think some of the things that I've learned up until this point is, I would agree with you. Don't sweat the small stuff. Definitely put, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, but put parameters on what is permissible inside of your business and what is not permissible. Right. What you will put up with and what you would not put up with, and stick to it. Even if that means you lose 10 students, stick to it, because that's going to be highly important. I would say, I know this is the phrase right now, and I don't mean anything by it, but your and I'm not going to say the phrase right, but your mental self is important. You know,
yeah, mental health.
Mental health is important. I remember my mom talking about, she hardly ever did this, but you know, she talked about taking a day off of work every once in a while. And when I say every once in a while, it probably was, if it was once a year, and she would call it a mental health day.
Right.
And this was, you know, 30 years ago, right? 40 years ago, whatever it was. And I think those are important. And Dan Sullivan, you know, talks about, you know, taking time off. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years, is that, you know, those time off in a way is one of the best things I think you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Also, and part of that needs to be time off in a way with family or friends or whatever, you know, your enjoyment is. But second to that is, and this is something that Grandmaster Hafner talked about, is, you know, your best friend needs to be that yellow pad and your pen, and you need to sit down and you need to think about your business, ask questions about your business, write about your business, draw things about your business. Right. Just, you know, get that all out on paper. You know, it might be, and he didn't say this, but this is just me. There might be only, you know, 90% of what you write might not be anything that you ever do, but the 10% that you do is going to be golden.
Absolutely.
And so you need to have that pad of paper and be thinking about your business and write stuff. You know, so yeah, I would say those things are really important.
Have you ever seen the TV show, and I think it's on History Channel, called Alone? It's like in its 6th or 8th season.
Love it. Love
that show. And I'm watching the new season, and I actually find myself like an old crazy person yelling at the TV when they make decisions. And I'm like, oh, come on, you're going to quit now? You're the 4th person left on the island, you know, that kind of thing. But I find it really frustrating how people don't prepare. Look at all those notes. That's amazing. I have the same thing, and I don't know whether I should just throw them away, because I always promise to go through them. And
this is only half the stack. This is only half the stack.
Right. So I wonder, like, to myself, like, are we ever going to do anything with that? Maybe you should do, like, hire one of those VA virtual assistants to type it all up and categorize it into a book of some sort.
Yeah, or scan it. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. But so anyway, on the show Alone, which I find interesting, is that, you know, what are the 3 most important things? Food, shelter,
water,
insanity, right? Like, yeah, shelter, water, insanity. Like, and you find that most of the people leave the show because they convince themselves they're sick, they're hurt, they're going to die, that what they're going through is not worth it, because they're going to then be sick and hurt and die. So they change and they tap out and they push the button and say, I'm done. And I look at that and I say, didn't you know all that when you went? You knew you're going to miss your family. You knew that you were going to have to build a house, and you knew you were going to have to hunt. And then some of them sit around and they don't do those things for days on. I mean, if I was starving, I'm a vegan, I would be searching for food. Even so, like, that'd be my first thing. And every day you'd get up and that's what you would do. That's it, right? But I find that, and that's no different. Like, I have a few coaching clients that I will say to them, hey, did you do X, Y, and Z? We talked about that 4 weeks ago. Oh, not yet. And then we talked about it last week. Oh, not yet. And we talked about it this week. Not yet. And I'm like, why? Why have you not done that? It would double the amount of students, or it would make you better at your sign-up process. Why are you ignoring these basic functions of food, water, shelter? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why do business owners, and I think that psychologically we put off the most difficult things because they're difficult, and we put easy things in place of them. Like, hey, instead of calling all my clients that have quit, let me just send a text message out to the 5 trials that came in. Like, you know, always choose to put yourself out of your comfort zone to do the tasks that you don't want to do, or hire someone to do those tasks, right? But you can't ignore those tasks, because that's why schools stay stagnant.
Well, and here it goes back to the basics are the basics for a reason.
Right.
But the bright, shiny objects are the ones that we all keep chasing after. Did it for years, totally did it for years. You know, now when there's a new bright, shiny object, I actually investigate it. And, you know, I really forward think, you know, if I use this, or I, you know, implement this in my business, what are going to be the effects later on down the road?
Yeah.
And I don't just mean initially, I'm talking years down the road. And so there's a lot of thinking that I actually do. And it's kind of funny that you know, that I'm talking about this, because there are times that I've even had to tell Mr. Bean, I tell him almost everything.
Right.
And there's probably 90% of the stuff that I've ever told him we've never even done.
Right.
Part of the reason is I'm just trying to flesh it out, think it over and through, you know, get his opinion on things, and then make a decision. And I think for quite a long time, until I actually told him this, and it's not to say that I don't procrastinate on things, because I do, but I think he thought I was a bigger procrastinator than what I am,
Right.
because I would just speak about things and say, oh,
Right.
hey, you know, this program, I'm looking at this, and what do you think about this? And, you know, man, it would be interesting if we were to implement, you know, tricks and flips into our blah, blah. You know, I'm just throwing that out as an idea,
Right. Yeah.
you know, as an example. But I think it's important for us as school owners to go ahead and look at those things.
Right.
But not everything that people are out there selling for us to put into our program, we should put into our program.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I've resisted that many, 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 many times, and didn't put in things. But the ones that I did do, they're no longer in my program. You know, so I did the kickboxing, I did the self-defense, I did like other things that were like program fillers. Like you got it's trending now, you know, and listen, I stick to what I do best, and that's ninjutsu and jujitsu and classical martial arts and weaponry. That's my forte. I know that's my wheelhouse. I'm the best at that. So let me just sell that. Let me make sure that I do what I'm best at. Anyway, I think that that's important. Don't get caught up in the bright, shiny objects unless you're really in a deficit and you don't have anything in your school and you need to add things in and you don't know how. There's nothing wrong with XMA or Hyper, programs like that will inject a massive amount of excitement into it. I mean, Roland Osborne, he's a friend of mine, and he is a genius when it comes to motivation and instructor training and you know, getting the school hyped up about things. And his programs are second to none. So if you're looking for a program to fill something, I would reach out to Roland at Hyper Martial Arts, and even Mike Chat with XMA. Some of those programs are great. But for me, I know my wheelhouse, so I'm going to stick with that and really build on that. But I don't need more bright, shiny objects. I used to go to the Super Show, and every year I'd come back, my staff hated me. It was, oh, hey, I bought a new software, better than the old software. They're like another 4 months of re-entering data and getting it up and running. Why bother? You're only going to go to the show 6 months later and change it again. Like, they hated me for all the new things I'd bring back, but I was excited. I could see the potential, but they weren't really into it and they didn't want to do it. So that's why it never really went anywhere, because it was just me and I couldn't get them behind it because it was always causing them more work and headaches.
Right. Now, I will say, with Spark, they put all the stuff in now, you know, like they put all the stuff in there for you. So
yeah, true.
So if you're transferring from one software to the other, as long as you can put it in what is it called, the CVS file, CVV
right.
file, whatever it's called.
Yeah, CVV.
Yeah, you know, then you know.
Oh yeah, they would, but there is some work involved after.
Sure.
But at the same time, you're right, though. They would literally take all your data from XYZ software and import it into the Spark database.
I was going to mention our Martial Arts Business Manifesto. If somebody's looking to really scale their business, just go to schoolownertalk.com, and then on the page there somewhere, you can scroll down and find the Martial Arts Business Manifesto, and then opt in just your first name and your email address, and then we send it right to you. But there's some things in there with regards to scalability that are highly important. One of it is the math that we give you on your floor, and to know exactly how many people you actually can service, you know, inside of your studio, so that you can actually know, can my studio actually do 150, 200, or 300 people, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we talk about that activity is not productivity, you know, inside of the manifesto. And I think that that's important for us to understand, that activity is not productivity. You know, activity does not equal accomplishment. And so, reading and learning about that, I would, I mean, obviously we're a little biased about it, but I think those things are really important. The other thing, I'm just reading off the table of contents, the reasons why some martial arts school owners struggle, the obstacles to your success, flawed design, frustration, hard work, and marginal results. Activity, that's it. Activity is not a business strategy. That's it. What is your time worth? Do you know? We give you the calculations to know exactly what your time is worth. The difference between activity and accomplishment, the fastest way and easiest to increase your hourly rate, business scalability and leverage that brings the increase. Less is best. You're the untrained, or are you an untrained manager? How work should be done in your business. And then thinking about your business differently, meaning metrics equal profit. Those type of things. And then, of course, we recap everything. But more money, more time off, less stress, which is what you preach. More money, more time off, less stress. So if somebody wants to get that Martial Arts Business Manifesto, go to schoolownertalk.com and click on the manifesto that's there. It is 27 pages. You can sit down and print it out and put it next to your toilet, right? And if you don't like it, you can use it to wipe with. But, look, I mean, it's there for you.
Right. Where is it though? I'm looking on there. Maybe we could find it and put the link, but I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it. But I'm looking there. Yeah, like I don't know if it's right on the front page. It wasn't in because right now it's loaded with all 280.
Oh, just click on it. Yeah, just click on an episode.
Okay.
And then after you're on an episode, it'll be there on the right-hand side if you're on a dashboard, but on a computer. But if otherwise, you'll have to scroll down probably close to the very bottom if you're on a phone.
I see it. So we could. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you're right. All you have to do is click inside one of the episodes, and then it asks you. But should I make people jump through those hoops to get it so that they see our podcasts and everything?
No, what I can do is I can just throw it right on this broadcast too.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we could put it in the heading of our, the top of the broadcast and put it in there, the link.
Yep. Nope. I just put it on there.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Cool. Well, hey, listen, another great time with you, Dwayne. Thank you very much. I leave motivated. This is we always preach, have like-minded friends and surround yourself with people that motivate you. And this is my weekly sanity. And I love being on the call with you, and it reminds me of things that I've forgotten and motivates me to do things that I got lazy on. So thanks for being you and helping me as an owner that's been doing this for so long, stay motivated. I appreciate it. And I hope the listeners love what we do. If they do, please share our stuff, and they could go to iTunes, right? Or they could go to the schoolownertalk.com website to check out this is our 287th episode, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, some crazy amount. Like we've been doing this forever. I think by far the longest running martial art related podcast in the history of podcasts.
Well, with regards to martial arts business, I would say yes.
Right. Yeah, pretty cool. But all right, bud, thank you so much. Did you want to close it up and then we'll run our outro?
Yeah, no, I'm appreciative. So everybody, go back and watch some or listen to some past episodes too. There's a search bar at schoolownertalk.com, and then type in the topic name and it'll come up. There's a plethora of useful information.
All right, awesome, bud. Thank you. And there is. It's like literally any topic that they want, they could just type it in and find one, two, or more that we've went into that topic in depth, guest instructors, and so on.
Yep. All right. Have a good one, Allie.
All right, dude. Have a great day. Sayonara, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk Podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out EliteInsights.com for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, the best darn software for school owner manager on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your school systems. We will see you next time.